All right, what's up, Carlton people? Round 19, coming to you live from the ever beautiful Tel Aviv, Jaffa. Check out the scene that I'm working with at the moment. Just right here on the Jaffa port. Big game this week. Before we get to it, obviously the big news coming through is Paddy CRIPPS has signed an extension that'll see him a blue bagger until at least the end of 2019. There's a few talking points from this. Obviously, it's a huge show of faith from him. I never really thought that he would leave personally, and I'm sure none of us really did. There's always the lure of going back home, especially when you're playing in a struggling side, and I think overall he gets a lot of opportunity to be himself at Carlton. We've obviously invested a lot of time and confidence into him, and we put a lot of faith into him, and his work ethic has been something that our new crop coming through can build off and learn from, and that's really important. He's someone who we haven't really had for quite a while. I mean, we had Chris Judd, who was not too dissimilar in the way he played, very contested, inspirational style of midfielder, and CRIPPS comes in as an 18-year-old kid, and we had a lot of raps on him early, and he played quite a bit of VFL early in his career. He obviously had the broken leg, and he just took his time to develop, but once he hit the scene and once he burst onto the scene, he hasn't really looked back. So very excited to see him playing this week, and very excited to see him in a navy blue jumper for another 3 years. Oh, I'll tell you what, I just feel like this is the type of news that'll galvanise the group. I feel like having him sign, it's the last piece of the puzzle for this group at least. It's interesting because we've performed pretty poorly this season, obviously, and to have everybody re-sign is a testament to the club and the culture that we're building. It's really easy to walk away from a club when you're performing the way we are. So excited to see that. Now, moving on, we've got quite a few changes this week. I didn't really expect so many. I mean, obviously we've got a few injuries and that plays its part, and those are forced changes, but 5 changes in total. So we've got Zach Fisher and Liam Jones, who obviously have gone out for injury reasons. Casbolt, Shaw and Graham, all 3 of them are omitted, which we'll talk about it in a minute. I find some of those interesting, and I'll explain why in a moment. But in comes Daisy Thomas, Kieran Byrne, back from injury, good to see, Darcy Lang, Sam Rowe and Jed Lamb. And for the Gold Coast Suns, we've got Charlie Ballard, who's out with an injury, Calamar Chi and Braden Crossley also comes out, and Braden Fiorini, David Swallow and Jack Bowes come in. They're not too bad. They're handy players for the Gold Coast Suns, so it's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a tough game, especially up there at Metricon. We just need to get revenge, and we need to get a win. I mean, I don't want to be sitting here on Saturday afternoon and talking about how we let them pile 4 goals in a row on us and didn't really look back. So I just really want to see a 4-quarter effort this week, or at least a 3.5-quarter effort. There's a few players, in my opinion, who are playing this next block of 4 or 5 weeks. They're playing for their careers and they're playing for their Carlton future. And guys who we've shown faith in need to repay the club, and we really need to start thinking about next year and onwards. And I think we're going to see a bit more of that with the selection table anyway over the next coming weeks. So that's how I see that. Going through the side, we'll start in the back line. Jack Silvani, Jacob Wiedering and Daisy. The Jack Silvani experiment continues. We continue to shift and change his role, and it's tough for anyone, let alone a young guy to consistently have a role change. But he doesn't seem to be the type to complain. He just wants to play footy. He loves the club, and I expect him to put a good effort. I would hope that if we've named him in the back line that he stays there all game, just to see what he's like. I actually thought he had some pretty good moments last week as a defender, and obviously runs in his blood, and that's always an interesting talking point. But he's in the back line as named right now. Wiedering and Thomas. I think Wiedering took a step forward last week. I want to see him do the same this week, but I want to see less of the just indecision and I think he looks slower because he's not making decisions quick enough, and so I want to see him back himself in. He's playing against not a great side, so hopefully that will give him some confidence to use his flair and use his creativity. And Daisy's probably one of the players who is playing for a contract, playing for a spot on the list next year. So I would expect him to play relatively well, to play hard, and we need his leadership, obviously, with Liam Jones coming out of the side. Liam Jones might not necessarily be a leader, but he is definitely a regular defender for us week in and week out. So Daisy's going to need to perform. Half back line, Kieran Byrne, Marchbank and Simo. Good to see Byrne back. A lot of talk centres around Kieran Byrne being in our best 22, and I would like him to be in our best 22. I'm not so convinced yet. I think I need to see him play a full season after he's had the injuries and whatnot before I can really say he's in our best 22. But he's definitely in the mix. He's definitely one of the better players that we have had on our injury list. So he's going to need a few weeks to get into it. We've only got 5 or so left. So hopefully he can build a block of form to finish off this season and just stay in the side. Stay injury free. Get his form right and just build every week. So that's what I want to see from Kieran Byrne. Marchbank, I feel like this is a game now where he should start getting his touch back. He's had 2 or 3 games into the system now. He's been training pretty hard. Last week we saw glimpses of his defensive skills, and this week I just want to see more of his intercept marking, decision making, just to get a little bit better, just to get up to this with the speed of the game. So looking forward to that. We probably need to see him talking a little bit more as well. I feel like we have lost a strength of ours, particularly from last year, which was we looked like we were a very communicative team, especially in the back line. So hopefully Marchbank can provide that voice for us. And Simo, you know what we're going to get. He's going to want to finish the season strongly, wants to get a win. And Cripps made a really good point about the older, more experienced guys, who have put in a lot of effort and a lot of time into the club, and repaying them with good performances. So hopefully Simo can perform well. I thought he was down on his usual output last week, but looking forward to seeing him bouncing back. Centre line, we've got Murph, Cripps and O'Brien. Murph is actually playing pretty well. He has a very rare but special ability to come off an injury layoff and just be fit, whether it's because he's had over 10 pre-seasons or just because our medical staff has done a good job. I'm not sure, but it's good to see him win a lot of the footy. Probably just want to see him be a little bit more cleaner this week, and so I'm looking forward to that. Cripps just puts a smile on my face. Looking forward to seeing him crack in. He was obviously knocked on his ass last week from the punch from Daniel Howe, and I'm really glad that he ended up getting 5 weeks for that and the trip on Fisher. So Cripps, just want to see him crack in, just enjoy his footy. I think once you get the contract talk out of the way, it probably gives you a bit of an injection of energy. So looking forward to seeing Cripps play with that energy. And Lockie O'Brien, I think he took a really good step forward last week. I mentioned the stats of his possession averages from the first 4 rounds to now, and he's averaging 17 touches since round 4, and that's a really good effort. We're going to need him to be a gaff type player, that outside runner. So he needs to probably get another 2 or 3 pre-seasons into him before he can really dominate over the course of an entire season. But to see him averaging over 15 touches in a big block of the season is really promising. So just looking forward to seeing him build off that. Half forward line, Jared Pickett, Charlie Curnow, Samo. Pickett, again, another one in the Marchbank category who's had a long layoff. He probably doesn't need as long as Marchbank does to get his touch, because he still has been able to run. He only had a wrist injury, so we just need him to get up to the the speed of the game and be able to be a bit more cleaner with the footy. He's not a guy that's going to win you a lot of ball, but when he does win it, we need him to really use it well. Back his pace, and he did a little bit of that in the second half last week, but we need to see that from the start of the game. So looking forward to that. Charlie Boy is just going to continue on doing what he does. He had a pretty good first half in round 2 when we played the Gold Coast, and he sort of fell away as we did as a team. So hopefully he can put in a good performance and just continue on from there. I feel like he'd be confident playing against the Gold Coast Suns, and Stephen May's no easy beat. He's going to be a tough battle there, but I think he's up for it. Samo, yeah, he's there. He's pushing, but he just hasn't quite had that game that we're waiting for. He's been in the system for a few years now, and me personally, and I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that were just waiting for this, this 25 possession, 2-goal, 1 game. He's got the capability to do it, and we just want to see it so we can really, sort of tick the box and say, all right, 2018, he's taken a step forward. So I think he's hovered with his form throughout the season. So I want to see him have the game. I do believe this is the type of game that he could do it in, but it remains to be seen. Forward line, Darcy Lang, Harry Mackay and Cam Paulson. Darcy Lang is one for me who's coming up to a very important block of footy for his time at the Blues. I know he's only been at the club for less than a year now, or maybe just on a year, but for me the next 4 or 5 weeks are going to really show whether he falls into the Graham, Jed Lamb, Kerridge category, or if he's going to be a long-term senior guy for us. So I mean, he's had a few weeks in the VFL. He played relatively well last week, and he comes up against a fairly young and inexperienced side, and I would hope that his experience shows this week. So I've got my eye on Darcy Lang for the next few weeks, so we'll stay tuned on that. Harry Mackay, tough matchup. Rory Thompson can be a really good defender at times. He's a little bit inconsistent as well, Rory. But it's good. We need to see Harry out on the park for the rest of the season, together with Charlie, patrolling that forward line. We really need to get them working together as a unit, because obviously that's, those are our guys moving forward. Unless we trade one of them, which I doubt we would, but until otherwise noted, those are our guys moving forward. So fingers crossed Harry can put away his kicking performance from last week and really move forward and show that was just, I don't know what that was last week. His kicking for goal was, I don't know, that was alarming, but no time to panic. Just need him to respond from that. Cam Paulson, it was good to see him get some reward for effort last week. The key now is just to continue on with that. I really want to see him just keep building each week. I mean, obviously we've spoken about this throughout the year. Nothing is linear. No one's performances are going to be linear, but I think last week Cam, set the bar for his effort, and I mean, that's incorrect. So his effort's always been there, but his ability to win the ball just hasn't. So I think he set the bar in terms of how much ball he needs to win, at a bare minimum. So I think he had 12 or 15 touches last week, and that's thereabouts where we want to see him. If he's named in the forward line, I actually like that, because he can put that forward pressure on, and if he does have 9 possessions in the game, at least we know that he's in that forward role. He's not a midfielder, and he's not really lacking impact in the game as a midfielder. So pretty interested to see how that one plays out. The followers, we've got Matthew Lobe, Ed Kerno and Paddy Dow. Lobe, good to see him stay in the side. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to see him continue to just perform and give effort, coming up against a pretty underrated ruckman in Jared Witts, who can be great at times and can obviously be poor at others, but I think Jared Witts is going to have a good game this week. He's in a pretty good block of form, especially over the last fortnight. So, Matthew Lobe, he's a professional. He's played finals. He's played in good sides. He's played in poor sides, and from all the talk that we hear about him, he seems to be doing the right things around the club. So, looking forward to seeing a good, strong performance from him. Ed Kerno, want to see him clean up his possessions a little bit more. Last week, I thought he let himself down. So, I mean, you just know what you're going to get with Ed in terms of an effort. Whether he goes to a Dave Swallow, or I'm not really sure how it's going to play out. I don't really expect us to have too many hard tags this week, but we'll see what happens during the game. So for me, I would expect Ed to be getting those 25 to 28 possessions and hopefully using them well. Paddy Dow, he had just sort of like an average game last week, so hopefully he can be better than what he was last week. Just give us 5 or 10% more. We've got to remember, Fisher's out, so he's been a bit of an excitement machine for us, and maybe Paddy Dow can step into that role, have a little bit more responsibility on his shoulders, and take it on board. So looking forward to that. On the interchange bench, Sam Rowe, Matt Kennedy, Jed Lamb and Matty Wright. Rowe, I've got some concerns about Rowe. I saw a few weeks ago when he played, he just looked in all sorts. He looked slow, he was getting out-bodied. I don't know if it was just a poor game or if it was just a poor block that he was experiencing, but I think you always, or me personally, I'm always a little bit more sensitive when I see guys of his age start showing those signs. So hopefully he comes in this week, performs well, and just sort of quashes all of those concerns. I think Simo had a similar situation early this year, and the boys on the Carlton show, the podcast, made comments early in the year that Simo had a few bad games and a few comments there about he could be declining, but I obviously that has proven to be untrue. But Rowe, I've just got my eye out for him, so he's someone I'm also very mindful of. Matt Kennedy, I thought his first 4 possessions were 4 of the worst that I've seen in a long time, and that's saying something considering the year that we've had this year. But he's got this ability to win the ball. He's obviously more fit. He looks more match fit. He looks more sharp. So the step for him is now to get these possessions and use them well. So that's what I really want to see. Ultimately, we need a 25 to 28 possession game at a bare minimum from him, in my opinion. So the pressure's on him, but like I've said earlier in the year, he wanted regular senior footy experience, and we're giving that to him. So he's now got to take that opportunity. Jed Lamb, without a doubt, playing for his Carlton life. I think he's going to come out with a little bit of aggro, and I kind of expect him to play really well this week. He's had games this season where he hasn't had a tagging job, and he's given us 8 or 9 possessions, and that just cannot happen this week. So hopefully he can impact the game. Again, Fish is out, so there's a spot in the midfield there for someone like a Lamb or a Wright or a Dow to step in and fill that void. And finally, Matty Wright. Won a bit more of the ball last week, kicked a goal. I just want to see more. Because he's given us more, I want to see more. I don't want to ever see him declining. And if I do see him declining, I start getting a little bit worried. So, again, an opponent who is not, in finals, not in that top 4, top 6 conversation, and therefore it's not someone that we should be intimidated by. Having said that, this season we've played against sides like this where we just haven't come out to play, so to speak. So hopefully Matty Wright can come with the good attitude, and if he does, he's got the ability to kick 5 goals. He kicked 5 against Richmond in round 1, and so I don't see why he couldn't do that this week. So fingers crossed. I'm optimistic about this week. I think the combination of the CRIPPS signing, the opportunity that presents itself for us to actually get a win is going to play well for us, going to play well in our hands, and hopefully we just see a galvanised, energised group from start to finish, and just get this second win on the board. So looking forward to it. 12:25. What is it? 12:25 p.m. bounce for me here. It'll be nice and stinking hot, but I'll be inside under the air conditioning. So again, thank you for tuning in, and fingers crossed. Go Blues.